The planning dinner was at Luminaire, the restaurant where Caroline wanted her rehearsal. Truffle oil and quiet money, that's what the air smelled like. White tablecloths so crisp they could cut skin. Diane still works at that nonprofit, Caroline said, holding up the seating chart like evidence in court. It's embarrassing. We can't have her at the head table looking like that. Mom's pen was already moving across my name. Clean, decisive strokes. The kind you use when erasing a mistake. She makes what, 40,000? My brother Marcus added. Jessica's friends are all executives. Doctors. What's Diane going to talk about? Homeless people. Dad sipped his wine. Said nothing. That silence was its own verdict. I'd worked in event coordination for 12 years before starting my nonprofit. I knew exactly how Luminaire operated. I knew because I'd consulted for their ownership group in 2019, restructuring their vendor contracts, saving them $340,000 annually. The owner, Richard Chin, sent me a bottle of 1990 Chateau Margaux as thanks. I also knew that Caroline's deposit, $15,000 for the venue, plus another $8,000 for the rehearsal dinner, had been paid by a corporate card registered to DRP Event Solutions. My company. My card. Caroline had asked to use my connections 8 months ago. Could I help with vendor discounts? Maybe leverage my nonprofit relationships? I'd smiled, agreed, and quietly paid for everything while she bragged to the family about her fiancé's generosity. I pulled out my phone under the table. Typed one email to my operations director, Kira. Cancel Parker Reynolds' wedding. All contracts. Immediate. Caroline's phone rang during dessert. She glanced at the screen, Luminaire's venue manager, and sent it to voicemail, annoyed at the interruption. It rang again 30 seconds later. Excuse me, she said, stepping away from the table with practiced grace. The kind of grace that comes from never being told no. We could hear her voice from the hallway. Professional at first. Then confused. Then shrill. She came back to the table pale. Actually pale, not the controlled blush she usually performed. The venue manager says our deposit was refunded, Caroline said slowly, like the words didn't make sense in that order. They're saying the account holder requested cancellation. But that's impossible. Jason paid. I paid, I said. The table went silent. What? Mom's voice was sharp. The deposit. The rehearsal dinner contract. The floral retainer at Botanica Gardens. The photography advance with Chin Studios. The cake deposit at Sucre. I paid for all of it. 8 months ago. You asked me to help with my connections. Marcus laughed. Actually laughed. Diane, this isn't funny. DRP Event Solutions, I continued. My consulting company. The one I started after leaving event coordination. We do corporate event planning, vendor negotiations, and contract management for high-net-worth clients. Last year's revenue was $2.4 million. This year we're projected at $3.1 million. I opened my phone, pulled up the payment portal, turned the screen toward Caroline. Transaction history. $15,000 to Luminaire. $8,000 to Luminaire Catering. $4,500 to Botanica Gardens. $6,000 to Chin Studios. $2,800 to Sucre Patisserie. All paid from my corporate account. All refunded 2 hours ago. Caroline's hands were shaking. You can't. This is my wedding. I did. Every contract lists DRP Event Solutions as the primary account holder. You're listed as the event contact. When the primary account holder requests cancellation and refund, venues comply. It's standard. Dad finally spoke. Diane, this is unreasonable. What's unreasonable? I said, voice level, is being told I'm too embarrassing to sit with my own family. What's unreasonable is my mother crossing my name off a seating chart like I'm a typo. I stood up. Left $200 bills on the table for my untouched meal. You wanted successful family only at that head table, I said. I've removed myself. And my $36,300 in deposits. I walked out of Luminaire into the November cold. Sharp and biting. The kind that makes you feel clean. The ghost ledger. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I opened a new spreadsheet. Title: The Cost of Being Invisible. Line item 1. Caroline's college graduation. I flew from Seattle to Boston. Took 2 days off work. Bought the Kate Spade bag she wanted, $3.40. At dinner, Dad toasted her accomplishments for 8 minutes. When it was my turn, Mom cut me off after 40 seconds. We need to order. Cost, self-worth. Memory of being celebrated. Never recoverable. Line item 2. Marcus's promotion party. I coordinated the entire event at his request. Booked the venue using my vendor relationships. Saved him $4,000. During speeches, his boss asked who planned it. Marcus said, a professional coordinator. Very expensive. I was standing 10 feet away. Cost, professional acknowledgement. The phrase, my sister did this. Never refunded. Line item 3. Mom's 60th birthday. I spent 3 months planning the surprise party. Guest list of 50. Caroline arrived late, brought store-bought wine. Mom's thank you speech. Caroline, you always know exactly what I need. Cost, recognition. The sentence, Diane organized this. Never spoken. Line item 4. Family Christmas every year. I give thoughtful gifts, researched and personal. Last year I gave Dad a first edition of his favorite Steinbeck novel. $2.80. He opened it, said, nice, moved on. Caroline gives gift cards. Gets hugged for being practical. Cost, belief that effort matters. Erosion happens slowly then suddenly. Line item 5. The nonprofit years. 8 years running homeless services. Started with $12,000 in savings. Now serving 340 people annually. 89% program efficiency. Featured in Seattle Times. Mom's response when I sent the article, that's nice, honey. Caroline got promoted to VP. Cost family pride. The words, we're proud of you. Never issued. Line item 6. Every phone call. I call weekly. Tell them about grant wins, new housing contracts, people we've helped. Response, polite. Brief. Then, did you hear Caroline bought a Tesla? Cost, enthusiasm. The feeling someone cares about your victories. Depleted. Line item 7. This planning dinner. I pay for their wedding. Leverage 12 years of industry relationships. Save them tens of thousands. Get uninvited from the head table for being unsuccessful. Cost, dignity. The belief family means something. Balance now 0. Total cost. 1 relationship, unsalvageable. I saved the spreadsheet. Sent it to no one. Some ledgers exist just so you know the math is real. Internal reflection. The slot machine theory. There's a concept in psychology called the gambler's fallacy. You keep feeding the slot machine because you're convinced the jackpot is coming. One more quarter. One more kind gesture. One more attempt to prove your worth. The fallacy isn't that you're playing. It's that you think the machine has memory. That it's tracking your investment and will eventually pay out because you've earned it. Family worked like that for me. I kept depositing love, effort, professional success, thinking eventually the display would light up. Congratulations, you matter. But slot machines don't have memory. They're programmed for randomness and profit. And some families operate the same way. I think I knew this at Caroline's college graduation. That moment when Mom cut me off mid-sentence to order appetizers. Something small died then. Something that whispers, they'll see you eventually. Just keep trying. But I kept feeding the machine. There was a specific moment. A sensory memory I can't shake. Marcus's promotion party. I was standing near the bar watching him accept congratulations for an event I'd designed. The bartender asked if I wanted another drink. I said no. The background noise went blurry. Laughter, clinking glasses, classic jazz. And for 5 seconds I felt completely invisible. Not ignored. Invisible. Like I could walk out and the party would continue, perfect and complete, never noticing the absence. That's when I started my consulting company. Not as revenge. As proof of concept. Could I exist successfully outside their validation? Could I build something real that didn't require their applause to be legitimate? 3 years later, $2.4 million in revenue. Clients in 6 states. A team of 8. Industry awards. Media features. The slot machine never paid out. But I stopped playing. Procedural justice. How systems protect themselves. The morning after the planning dinner, my phone rang at 7 a.m. Richard Chin, owner of Luminaire. Diane, I got a call from a very upset bride. Caroline Parker. She's saying there's been a mistake with her deposit. No mistake, I said. I'm the account holder. I requested cancellation and refund. All contracts list DRP Event Solutions as primary. She's threatening legal action. She can try. The contracts are clear. Primary account holder has full cancellation rights within the refund window. We're 43 days out from the event. Your policy allows refunds up to 30 days prior with 25% retention. I'm within terms. Silence on the line. Then, you paid for your sister's wedding and she uninvited you. From the head table. For being unsuccessful. Richard laughed. It was brief but genuine. I'll handle her attorney if she calls. Your contract law is solid. And Diane? That restructuring you did for us in 2019? We're still using your vendor framework. You saved us another $90,000 last quarter. Thank you, Richard. Thank you. And I'm sorry your family is stupid. Caroline hired an attorney. James Morrison from Barrett & Klein. He sent a demand letter to DRP Event Solutions within 48 hours. My attorney, Patricia Zhao, responded same day. DRP Event Solutions was the primary account holder on all contracts related to the Parker Reynolds wedding. Ms. Diane Parker, as CEO of DRP Event Solutions, executed standard cancellation procedures within contractual terms. All deposits have been refunded per vendor policies. Ms. Caroline Parker was listed only as event contact, not account holder. She has no legal standing to challenge cancellations executed by the primary account holder. Marcus called me directly. Furious. You're destroying Caroline's wedding over a seating chart? That's insane. I'm not destroying anything. I've simply withdrawn my financial support. She's free to rebook everything. At full price. With a new deposit. We don't have $36,000 sitting around. Then maybe she shouldn't have uninvited the person who was paying for it. He hung up. Mom called next. Her voice had that controlled disappointment she'd perfected. The one that made you feel 6 years old and guilty for existing. Dan, this is cruel. You're punishing your sister on what should be the happiest day of her life. She punished me, I said simply. At a planning dinner for a wedding I was funding. He called me embarrassing. You crossed my name off the seating chart. Those were choices. You're being dramatic. I'm being factual. The contracts list my company as the account holder. I exercised standard cancellation rights. If she wants to get married at Luminaire, she can pay the deposits herself. We thought Jason had paid. He thought wrong. For 8 months, I've been quietly covering costs while she bragged about her fiancé's generosity. I helped because I'm family. Then I got uninvited from the head table for being unsuccessful. So I stopped helping. Your father thinks you're being spiteful. Tell Dad that spite would be showing up at the wedding and making a scene. What I did was business. Clean, documented, legal. The family business he's so proud of should appreciate that. I hung up before she could respond. Consequence cascade. The consequences arrived like dominoes. Slow at first, then accelerating. Week 1. Caroline tried to rebook Luminaire. The venue was now $22,000 for her date. Spring wedding season, high demand. She didn't have it. She tried Botanica Gardens. They were booked until October. Chin Studios? Booked. Sucre Patisserie? 6-month waitlist. Every vendor I'd secured with my industry relationships, now unavailable. Week 2. Caroline's story spread through the extended family. Aunt Ruth called me, voice stiff. I heard what you did. That was extreme. I withdrew financial support after being told I was too embarrassing to sit with successful family. Still, it's her wedding. It's my money. Aunt Ruth didn't call back. 3 cousins sided with Caroline. 2 sided with me. The rest stayed silent. The kind of silence that chooses sides through inaction. Week 3. Jason's parents got involved. They offered to cover some costs. Found a different venue, the Berkshire Hotel. Less prestigious. Available because someone else had cancelled. Caroline cried on the phone to Mom. I know because Mom called me, voice breaking. She's devastated. This isn't the wedding she wanted. Then she shouldn't have made it contingent on erasing me. Week 4. The wedding got rescheduled. Smaller. The Berkshire Hotel, 120 guests instead of 180. Local photographer instead of Chin Studios. Grocery store cake instead of Sucre. I received no invitation. Not even to the ceremony. I didn't expect one. 6 months later, I got a message from my event coordinator Kira. Luminaire wants to profile you for their Vendor Excellence series. They want to feature the work you did restructuring their operations. Richard specifically requested you. I did the interview. It published in Event Professional magazine 3 weeks later. 2-page spread. Photo of me at Luminaire, in the private dining room Caroline had wanted for her rehearsal dinner. The headline, How Diane Parker Built a $3.1 million Event Consulting Empire by Mastering the Details That Matter. Caroline saw it. I know because Marcus texted me, really? You had to do the interview at Luminaire? I didn't respond. The ending, 2 years later. DRP Event Solutions now operates in 4 cities. Revenue last year, $4.2 million. We've expanded into corporate retreat planning and nonprofit fundraising galas. I'm planning a gala for my homeless services nonprofit next month. Luminaire is hosting. 300 guests. Expected fundraising, $180,000. Richard Chin is donating the venue cost. He told me, what you did that night, walking away from people who didn't value you, that took guts. I respect that. Caroline got married at the Berkshire Hotel. I saw photos on social media. It looked fine. Perfectly fine. The kind of fine that comes from compromise and reduced expectations. I don't speak to my parents anymore. Or Marcus. Or Caroline. The last contact was 18 months ago. Mom sent a text. Can we talk about reconciliation? I responded, I'm open to that conversation when you can articulate specifically what you're apologizing for. She never replied. Sometimes I think about that planning dinner. The smell of truffle oil. Mom's pen crossing out my name. The decisive cruelty of it. And I think, she wanted successful family only at that head table. She got exactly what she asked for. I just wasn't sitting at it.
I'm leaving you for Amanda, Michael announced casually, as if he were commenting on the weather. He stood in my home office doorway, looking oddly pleased with himself. And before you start drama about divorce settlements or splitting assets, let me be clear, there won't be any of that. I'm just moving in with her. I looked up from my laptop, where I'd been reviewing financial reports for the investment firm I manage. At 42, I'd spent 15 years building a life with this man. And here he was, throwing it all away for his 23-year-old secretary. Nothing to say, Elizabeth. He smirked, clearly expecting tears or begging. Usually you have an opinion about everything. I kept my expression neutral as I closed my laptop. How long have you been planning this, Michael? He walked into my office now, confidence radiating from his expensive suit and freshly styled hair. Does it matter? Amanda understands me in ways you never could. She's young, exciting. Everything you're not anymore. I nodded slowly, opening my desk drawer. And you fought this through? The legal implications. There won't be any legal implications, he scoffed. I'm not filing for divorce. I'm just leaving. You can't force me to sign papers or split anything. I've checked. Interesting, I said, pulling out a thick envelope. So you've forgotten about this? His smug expression faltered slightly as I removed the document. What's that? The prenuptial agreement you signed 15 years ago. I replied calmly. The one your father insisted on, remember? To protect the family assets? The color drained from his face. That was years ago. It can't still be valid. Oh, but it is. I slid the document across my desk. Section 3 is particularly relevant. In case of abandonment or infidelity, all joint assets are to be split 70-30 in favor of the wronged party. There's also a fascinating clause about maintaining the standard of living. Michael snatched up the papers, his hands shaking slightly as he flipped through them. You planned this, he accused. You kept this all these years, waiting. I couldn't help but laugh. I planned for you to cheat with your secretary, to announce you're abandoning our marriage. Give yourself some credit, Michael. This level of stupidity is entirely your own achievement. You can't prove anything, he blustered, but his voice lacked conviction. It's my word against yours about Amanda. I opened my laptop again, turning it to face him. Actually, I have the emails between you and Amanda going back 6 months. The hotel receipts. The jewelry purchases. Did you really think I wouldn't notice $12,000 charged to our joint account at Tiffany's? The swagger was gone now, replaced by something between panic and rage. You've been spying on me? No, Michael. I've been protecting myself. There's a difference. I stood up, smoothing my skirt. I knew something was wrong when you started working late every Tuesday and Thursday, the same nights the corporate card showed charges at the Golden Grove Hotel. He slumped into the chair across from my desk, the prenup clutched in his hand. What do you want? I want what I'm legally entitled to, I replied. The prenup makes it quite clear. We can do this quietly, quickly, and you can go live your exciting new life with Amanda. Or we can let my lawyers handle it, which will be considerably messier and more expensive. You're bluffing, he tried one last time. You wouldn't want people knowing about this. Your reputation. My reputation. I raised an eyebrow. I'm not the one having an affair with a secretary young enough to be my daughter. I'm not the one trying to abandon my marriage without proper legal proceedings. Would you like me to show you the social media response when my lawyers release the evidence? Michael's face had taken on a grayish tinge. The prenup slipped from his fingers onto my desk. I need time to think. You have 48 hours, I said, turning back to my laptop. After that, my lawyers will file the paperwork and things will become significantly more complicated. He stood up, his movements stiff. This isn't over. Actually, Michael, it is. It was over the moment you decided to throw away 15 years of marriage for someone who wasn't even born when we met. I looked him in the eye. I suggest you use these 48 hours wisely. Unlike you, I've already done my homework. As he walked out of my office, his shoulders slumped in defeat, I felt an odd sense of calm. I'd spent months preparing for this moment, gathering evidence, consulting with lawyers, securing copies of all our financial records. While Michael had been planning his new life with Amanda, I'd been planning my defense. I picked up my phone and dialed my lawyer's number. Sarah? Yes, he finally told me, just like we expected. No, he didn't take it well when I showed him the prenup. I smiled, remembering his face. You'll have the papers ready by Wednesday, perfect. What Michael didn't know was that the prenup was just the beginning. I had discovered something far more interesting in our financial records, something that would make him wish he'd just agreed to a simple divorce when he had the chance. The next morning, I sat in my lawyer's office, watching Sarah review the documents I brought. Her eyebrows rose higher with each page she turned. This is quite something, she said finally, looking up at me. You're sure about these transactions? I nodded, sliding another folder across her desk. 3 years of systematic fraud. Michael's been embezzling from his family's company, filtering money through fake consulting firms. Most of it's been going to offshore accounts. Sarah whistled softly, and his father has no idea. None. I took a sip of my coffee. Robert's been too busy expanding the business to notice his son's creative accounting. But once these records become part of the divorce proceedings, they'll have to be disclosed. Sarah finished, a slow smile spreading across her face. Elizabeth, you're either brilliant or terrifying. Possibly both. I had discovered the discrepancies purely by accident. One night, while Michael was at his regular late meeting with Amanda, I was reviewing our tax returns and noticed something odd. Small consulting payments, recurring monthly, to companies I'd never heard of. A little digging revealed these companies didn't exist. They were shells created to funnel money away from the family business. My phone buzzed. A text from Michael. We need to talk. Dinner tonight? Already cracking, I murmured, showing Sarah the message. What are you going to do? She asked. Meet him, of course. Let's see what he offers before we show our full hand. That evening, I arrived at La Maison, our usual anniversary spot. Michael was already there, looking considerably less polished than yesterday. His expensive suit couldn't hide the dark circles under his eyes or his nervous fidgeting. You look terrible, I observed, sitting down across from him. He ignored the comment. I've been thinking about what you said, about doing this quietly. Have you? I kept my tone neutral, signaling the waiter for a glass of wine. We could work something out, he said, leaning forward. A fair split. 50-50. You keep the beach house, I'll keep the city apartment. We both walk away with dignity. I couldn't help but laugh. That's your idea of fair? After what you've done? Be reasonable, Elizabeth, he hissed. You're not exactly in your prime anymore. This could be your last chance at a decent settlement. I took a slow sip of my wine, letting him stew in his desperation. You know what I find interesting, Michael? How a man who makes $200,000 a year can afford to buy his secretary a $12,000 necklace. Or how he manages multiple offshore accounts on that salary. His face went white. What are you talking about? Oh, I think you know exactly what I'm talking about. I pulled out my phone, pulling up a spreadsheet. Shall we discuss Meridian Consulting? Or perhaps Global Solutions Partners? Fascinating companies. They don't seem to have any employees, offices, or actual business. But they've received millions in consulting fees from your family's firm. Michael's hand shook as he reached for his water glass. You're out of your depth. No, darling, you are. I showed him the screen. These transfers weren't exactly subtle. Your father's accountants will figure it out eventually. Unless what? He practically whispered. Unless we handle this divorce my way. The prenup split, plus a few additional terms. Sign the papers and these financial records stay private. Fight me, and they become part of the public court record. He slumped in his chair. You destroy the whole family business just to spite me. I'm not destroying anything, I replied calmly. You did that yourself when you decided to steal from your father while cheating with your secretary. I'm simply giving you a choice about how this ends. The waiter approached with menus, but Michael waved him away. What are your terms? I pulled an envelope from my bag. The prenup split, as mentioned. You sign over the city apartment and beach house to me. A very generous monthly alimony payment, which I'm sure you can afford given your additional income sources. And you resign from the company quietly, citing personal reasons. You want me to give up everything. His voice cracked. Not everything. You'll keep your freedom to be with Amanda. Although, I paused, checking my phone again. You might want to check in with her. Last I heard, she was getting quite cozy with a new intern in accounting. Apparently, you're not the only one who appreciates youth and excitement. Michael grabbed the envelope, his hands shaking as he opened it. I need time to review this with my lawyer. You have 24 hours, I said, standing up. After that, I have a meeting scheduled with your father. I'm sure he'd be very interested in reviewing these financial records. As I walked out of the restaurant, I felt lighter than I had in months. Michael had underestimated me, assumed I was too naive or too afraid to fight back. He never realized that while he was playing around with his young secretary, I was carefully building a case that would bring his whole world crashing down. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Michael. You'll regret this. I smiled, typing my response. No, Michael. You already do. Michael waited until the last possible minute to respond to my message. He simply said, My office, 9 a.m., bringing my lawyer. I showed up 10 minutes early, wearing my best suit. My friend Sarah was with me, holding a briefcase full of documents, enough to ruin Michael's career and maybe even start a criminal case. His office looked just like I remembered, fancy and full of family photos that tried to make him seem loving and loyal. The irony was clear. Michael looked tired as he sat behind his desk. His lawyer, James Porter, stood by the window, trying to look confident but not doing a great job. They watched as Sarah and I sat down. Let's get to the point, James said. Michael agrees to most of your terms, with a few changes. Most? I asked. He's fine with the property and alimony, James explained. But asking him to quit the family business is too much. We want that part removed. Sarah opened the briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. Then maybe we should go over why that part is necessary. That won't be needed, Michael said quickly, too quickly. I leaned forward. Actually, it is. James, there's something Michael didn't tell you. Something about shady accounting and hidden money overseas. James turned to Michael. What is she talking about? Before Michael could answer, the door opened. His father, Robert, walked in holding a spreadsheet I recognized. I think she means this, Robert said seriously. Michael jumped up. Dad, what are you doing here? What I should have done a long time ago, paying attention, Robert replied. Elizabeth sent me this last night. Our accountants checked it out this morning. Michael's face twisted in anger. You went to my father? You. Careful, Sarah warned. Everything said here is on record. Robert stood behind me. The board is meeting today. You don't need to resign, Michael. You're fired. Michael sank back in his chair. Dad, please, I can explain. Explain what? Robert snapped. That you stole from us? Lied to your wife? Left a paper trail like an amateur? James coughed. Given this, maybe we should pause to talk. There's nothing to talk about, I cut in. Michael signs the divorce papers today. If he does, I won't press fraud charges. You can't prove it. Michael tried again. Robert placed a hand on my shoulder. She doesn't have to. I'll press charges if you don't sign. It's up to you, son. The next hour flew by. Michael signed everything with a shaky hand. He didn't even read the documents. By 10 a.m., it was over. Our 15-year marriage ended with a few signatures. As he and his lawyer left, Robert looked at me. I'm sorry, Elizabeth. I should have seen this coming. I shook my head. We both trusted him. That's not your fault. He hesitated, then smiled a little. You're still family. Actually, we need someone new to lead financial oversight, someone sharp, who notices everything. I laughed. Are you offering me Michael's old job? No, he said. I'm offering you the job you've always deserved. Michael only had the title. You have the talent. 3 months later, I sat in my new office, Michael's old one, but now fully redecorated. The company was bouncing back after the scandal, mostly because we'd kept the worst parts quiet. Michael had moved into a small apartment. His girlfriend Amanda had dumped him for an intern. That part still made me smile. There was a knock on the door. Sarah peeked in, grinning. Guess who I just heard from? Who? Michael's lawyer. He wants to lower the alimony. Says he can't afford the payments. Let me guess. Entry-level jobs don't pay like executive ones. He's a junior accountant at a tiny firm, she said. The irony is perfect. Send the usual reply. Request denied. Request denied. When Sarah left, I walked to the window. Life was better than ever. I had the beach house, a city apartment I loved, and a job I earned on my own. My phone buzzed with a text from Robert. Board meeting at 2. Bring the reports. And Elizabeth? Thanks for saving the company. I smiled, grabbed my files, and headed to the meeting. As I walked past the front desk, where Amanda once worked, I nodded to the new secretary, a smart woman in her 50s. I'd made sure Michael's type wouldn't be hired again. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's rising above, getting better, and moving on. Michael tried to leave me with nothing. Instead, he lost everything, and I gained more than I ever imagined. The best part? He destroyed himself. I just made sure he didn't take me down with him. I'm taking everything, you get nothing. Marcus sneered, tossing his coffee mug into the sink with enough force to chip it. I stood in our kitchen, the morning sunlight streaming through the windows we'd picked up together, watching my husband of 8 years pack the last of his things. My name is Olivia, and at 35, I was witnessing the end of my marriage in real time. Marcus, once the loving man who'd promised to grow old with me, was now a stranger consumed by his midlife crisis and his new girlfriend, Amber. You're making a mistake, I said calmly, my voice steadier than I felt. We should handle this properly through lawyers. He laughed, that cruel, dismissive sound I'd grown familiar with over the past few months. Lawyers? Why? So you can try to take half of what I've built? I don't think so, Olivia. I've already emptied our joint accounts. Good luck proving what's yours and what's mine. I watched him swagger around our kitchen, his confidence fueled by what he thought was a brilliant plan. He had no idea that I'd been preparing for this moment for nearly a year, ever since I found the first suspicious charge on our credit card statement. At least let's discuss this rationally. I attempted one last time, though I knew it was futile. Marcus was too far gone, too convinced of his own cleverness. There's nothing to discuss, he spat, checking his phone as another text from Amber lit up his screen. I'm moving in with Amber. She understands me, supports my dreams. Unlike you, who's been holding me back all these years. I thought about the promotion I turned down 3 years ago so he could take that job in Seattle. About the countless nights I'd stayed up helping him prepare presentations, the weekends spent networking with his colleagues, the dreams I'd put on hold to support his ambitions. Is that what you really think? I asked, maintaining my composure. That I held you back? Look at you, he gestured dismissively. Still so calm, so controlled. This is exactly why I'm leaving. You're like a robot, Olivia. No passion, no fire. Amber makes me feel alive. Ah, yes. Amber. The 24-year-old personal trainer who'd caught my husband's eye at his gym 6 months ago. Young, exciting Amber, who had no idea that Marcus had done this before, with his previous wife, 10 years ago. I see, I said, taking a sip of my coffee. And you're sure about this? About leaving without any formal separation or divorce agreement? Absolutely, he grinned, pulling his designer suitcase toward the door. You'll be hearing from me once I'm settled. Maybe I'll let you keep some furniture. As he reached for the door handle, I couldn't help but smile. You might want to rethink that, Marcus. He paused, turning back with an annoyed expression. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing, I shrugged. Just that actions have consequences. His face darkened. Is that a threat? Are you threatening me? Not at all. I'm simply stating a fact. You might want to check the actual balance of those accounts you emptied. For the first time that morning, uncertainty flickered across his face. He pulled out his phone, fingers flying across the screen as he checked his banking app. I watched as the color drained from his face. What? What did you do? He stammered. Me? Nothing. But it seems the bank has some concerns about recent unusual activity on our accounts. They might have frozen things temporarily. Standard procedure, you understand. You bid. Careful, I cut him off. You wouldn't want to add verbal abuse to the documentation, would you? He stormed out, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the windows. I waited until I heard his car screech out of the driveway before pulling out my own phone. Hello, Detective Morgan. Yes, he just left. Exactly as we predicted. Yes, I have the recordings and bank statements ready. And the footage from the security cameras? Perfect. 3 days, you said. I'll be ready. I hung up and walked to our home office, my office now, opening the safe hidden behind my collection of true crime novels, books Marcus had always mocked me for reading. I pulled out a thick file. Inside was a year's worth of evidence, bank statements showing his gradual siphoning of our accounts, photos of him and Amber taken by the PI I'd hired, records of the offshore account he thought I didn't know about, and most importantly, proof of his systematic embezzlement from his company's client accounts. Marcus thought he was so clever, so careful. He never realized that his first wife had contacted me 6 months ago, warning me that he'd done the same to her. By then, I'd already started gathering evidence, but her information helped me know exactly where to look. I sat down at my desk, opened my laptop, and began composing an email to his company's board of directors. In 3 days, Marcus's carefully constructed house of cards would come crashing down. But for now, I had work to do. The next 3 days passed in a blur of calculated moves and carefully orchestrated steps. Marcus's angry texts and voicemails piled up, each one more desperate than the last. Unfreeze the accounts, Olivia. You have no right to do this. I swear you'll regret this. I forwarded each message to Detective Morgan, adding to the growing pile of evidence. Meanwhile, Amber had taken to social media, posting about their perfect love story and how Marcus was escaping his toxic marriage. Each post was carefully documented and archived by my lawyer. On the morning of the 3rd day, I sat in Detective Morgan's office, reviewing the final details. The stern-faced detective spread out the documents across her desk, nodding approvingly. The evidence is solid, she said, tapping a folder containing bank statements. Your husband's been embezzling money for years, using client accounts as his personal piggy bank. When did you first notice? I smiled faintly. The numbers never quite added up. Marcus thought because I was just a housewife, I wouldn't understand complex financial transactions. He forgot I used to work in forensic accounting. Detective Morgan raised an eyebrow. A fact he's about to regret overlooking. My phone buzzed. Another message from Marcus. Babe, let's talk about this. We can work something out. Call me. He's getting nervous, I observed. Has the board received my email? They're meeting right now, Detective Morgan confirmed. The evidence you provided about the embezzlement was comprehensive. The arrest warrant has been issued. We're moving in within the hour. I thought about Marcus and Amber probably lounging in their luxury hotel suite, planning their future with money stolen from innocent clients. Money he'd moved through our joint accounts, thinking he was being clever by making me an unwitting accomplice. You know, Detective Morgan said, studying my face, most people in your situation would have just filed for divorce when they discovered the affair. I shook my head. This isn't about the affair. It's about justice. Those clients trusted him with their money. He betrayed that trust, just like he betrayed our marriage vows. My phone lit up with a call from an unknown number. Marcus's first wife, Diane. Olivia? Her familiar voice came through. It's happening. The board just fired him. My friend in HR said they're cooperating fully with the police. Thank you, Diana, I said softly, for everything, for warning me, for helping me understand his patterns. We both deserve better, she replied. I just wish I'd been brave enough to stop him sooner. After hanging up, I checked my email. The board had copied me on their formal statement. Marcus was being terminated for gross misconduct, and all clients would be notified of the ongoing investigation. Detective Morgan stood up, straightening her jacket. Ready? I nodded, gathering my things. We had arranged for me to be at the police station when they brought him in. I wanted to see his face when he realized just how completely his plan had backfired. The drive to the station felt surreal. Through social media updates, I could track Marcus and Amber's last moments of freedom. She had just posted a poolside selfie with the caption, "Living our best life with my soulmate. #TrueLove, #new beginnings. If only she knew." My phone rang again. Marcus. This time I answered. "Olivia, please," he began, his voice urgent. "Whatever you think you know, you're wrong. I can explain everything. Can you explain the $2.3 million missing from client accounts?" I asked calmly, or the offshore transfers, or the fake investment reports. Silence. How did you? Goodbye, Marcus. I believe the police will be there soon. I suggest you answer their questions truthfully. It might help reduce your sentence. I hung up as we pulled into the police station parking lot. Detective Morgan led me to a waiting area with a view of the entrance. It won't be long now, she assured me. She was right. Within 30 minutes, the station burst into activity. Through the glass doors, I watched as officers led Marcus in, handcuffed and disheveled. Behind him, a tearful Amber was being escorted separately, her mascara running down her face. Our eyes met as they led him past the waiting area. The shock on his face when he saw me sitting there, calm and composed, was almost comical. Gone was the arrogant man who'd sneered at me 3 days ago. In his place was a pale, frightened version of my husband, finally facing the consequences of his actions. "Mrs. Wilson." A young officer approached me. "We'll need your official statement now." I stood up, smoothing my skirt. "Of course. I have everything documented, organized by date, with supporting evidence for each incident." As I followed the officer to an interview room, I heard Marcus's voice echo down the hallway. "Olivia. Olivia, please. Tell them this is a mistake." But I kept walking. Some mistakes I'd learned weren't meant to be fixed. They were meant to be exposed. 6 months after Marcus's arrest, I sat in my newly renovated home office, reviewing the final divorce settlement. The morning sun streamed through windows that no longer held any painful memories, just promise. The trial had been swift and decisive. With the mountain of evidence I'd gathered, along with Diana's testimony about his previous schemes, Marcus had no choice but to plead guilty. 8 years of fraud and embezzlement earned him 15 years in prison. His attempts to blame me for the missing money fell apart under scrutiny. Amber, it turned out, hadn't known about the fraud, but she happily spent the stolen money. She was ordered to return everything she'd received from Marcus. The last I heard, she'd moved back in with her parents, her social media dreams of luxury living shattered. My phone buzzed with a text from Diana. "Just saw the news about the settlement. Congratulations. Coffee next week." We'd become unlikely friends, bonded by our shared experience. She'd rebuilt her life after Marcus, showing me it was possible to thrive after such betrayal. Now it was my turn. The doorbell rang, my lawyer arriving with the final paperwork. "Everything's settled," she announced, spreading documents across my desk. "The judge was particularly impressed with your documentation. The divorce is final, and you're completely cleared of any involvement in the fraud. Plus, since Marcus used joint accounts for his schemes, you're entitled to a significant portion of his legitimate assets." I signed where indicated, each stroke of the pen feeling like freedom. "What about the restitution to the clients?" "The recovered funds have been returned. Your cooperation with the investigation was crucial in tracking down the money. Several clients have actually reached out, wondering if you consider helping them manage their accounts in the future." I smiled, thinking about the forensic accounting career I'd abandoned to support Marcus. Maybe it's time to get back into the field. After my lawyer left, I walked through the house that was now truly mine. I'd redecorated, erasing traces of Marcus and creating a space that reflected who I was. not who he'd wanted me to be. The media had been fascinated by the case, the calculating fraudster, the young girlfriend, the wife who quietly gathered evidence for a year before bringing it all crashing down. They wanted interviews, book deals, TV appearances. I declined them all. This wasn't about fame or revenge, it was about justice. My phone rang. Detective Morgan. "Just checking in," she said warmly. "The DA wanted you to know that your case has inspired other fraud investigations. People are learning to pay attention to the warning signs." "That makes it worth it," I replied. "How's Marcus adjusting to prison?" "Not well," she chuckled. "Apparently luxury jumpsuits aren't his style. He's still insisting you set him up." "Of course he is." Marcus never could accept responsibility for his actions. After we hung up, I opened my laptop to find an email from Marcus's former company. They were offering me a position heading their new internal audit department. Apparently, my handling of Marcus's case had impressed the board. Life had a strange way of coming full circle. Marcus had always belittled my career aspirations, insisting I focus on supporting his dreams instead. Now his downfall had opened doors I thought were permanently closed. Diana's words from months ago echoed in my mind. We both deserved better. She was right. We deserved better than a man who viewed marriage as a convenience and wives as accessories to be upgraded when they became too knowing, too wise to his schemes. I picked up the framed news article on my desk, the one announcing Marcus's conviction. Not out of spite, but as a reminder that I was stronger than I'd known, smarter than he'd given me credit for, and capable of rebuilding my life on my own terms. Opening my calendar, I scheduled lunch with Diana for next week. Then I began drafting a response to the job offer. It was time to step back into the world of numbers and ledgers, this time using my skills to prevent others from being deceived as I had been. The setting sun cast long shadows across my office as I finished my workday. In the quiet of evening, I felt no regret, no lingering anger, just peace. Marcus had thought he was taking everything from me, but in trying to leave me with nothing, he'd actually given me the push I needed to reclaim everything. My career, my confidence, and my future. I closed my laptop and smiled. Sometimes the best revenge isn't plotting and scheming. It's simply making sure justice is served, and then moving forward to build a better life than you had before. Marcus thought he was writing the end of my story. Instead, he'd only written the end of his own.